Hey, what's up, guys? It's Ryder here, and I'm gonna finish up what I tried starting in the first episode, the first part, which was to write about Shadow's mother. So I've been thinking about it since I made the second part, which was supposed to be writing this, even though I didn't, obviously. So I've been thinking, and I recorded those parts yesterday, and uploaded them already. But I've been thinking about, how to write this out, because as I've said before in the other two parts, that the subject of Shadow's mother is a bit touchy, because she's not a character that I have ever delved into. I've never done parents in a way. It's not that I don't know how to write someone as a parent. It's I've never created a character to be a parent, right? Because the best example I can show is Jack. At first, they were just supposed to be friends, but I changed it up to where Jack is Shadow's father, and I like to tie my characters together in a way. So I just, instead of just friends, I did that father and son, which would make a lot of sense since I've always wanted to give Jack a son. I just didn't want to have to create a new character. At the time, I didn't want to create a new character, but now that I have so many, I have about 12, 13 characters that I need to write into my stories that we get. I mean, Shadow's mother would be the 13th or 14th character. It gets tiring after a while creating the characters. But creating one specifically to be the parent is a bit hard, especially when you haven't written them in as, kind of the parent figure, or had Mike for Shadow. Jack took him to an orphanage, right, to be trained by an assassin. And so I've already written Shadow's backstory out, but, it's hard to figure out where she was during that time, to write it out of where she was. I could say that she was captured or killed, or she didn't want to be a mom, or, she's just a stranger, one night stand thing. It's hard, but I want to give this character life because, I can't just say something like with Anakin from Star Wars, oh, it was midichlorians, or something like that. Not that I'd put it like that it was midichlorians' fault, just that, I don't want to do some miracle child thing like that. So, which I guess I could do that since Jack is basically all powerful, but I don't want to do that. That's just lazy writing to me. Oh yeah, miracle child. I want to create a kind of story, and especially a story that I can follow up to later on. Like for this chapter, I want to make it to where we find out how Shadow came to be, how Jack met Shadow's mother, and I haven't even come up with a name for her yet. I just keep saying Shadow's mother. And then later on, I can come back to the subject of Shadow's mother, and if I had put it to where she was captured, to where Jack and Shadow go and rescue her, maybe it's just Jack the code rescue her. Or I could put it like maybe she's in hiding and from something, and Jack goes to help her or something, right? But I want to touch up on the subject so I can create more stories. I like making short stories like this to grow upon later on, instead of just, this story's here and then finish. Miracle Child, that's it. And never touch up on it again, where I could do this and say that she was captured or she left and eventually was captured. right? Or something like that. Or I could, I don't know, maybe she died in childbirth, but I can always touch up on that later on what happened, you know. And that's why this chapter has given me so much writer's block, is I don't know how to make them meet, you know, how to write it as they met. I talked about making it where, like, Jack became captain of the guard, and, like, it was some kind of medieval world, and, Jack decided to be the captain of the guard for that life, and they slept together or something, and then he ran off with her or something like that. Or it could be he was a king and she was this random girl, which I see a lot of that in a lot of stories where it says one character is noble and then like a Cinderella thing almost, but you know, without the whole magical dance, midnight ball, whatever. Just like she worked as a maid or whatever, or a servant, and he fell in love with her. I could write it like that, but I've read books and stuff and where that already happens, so I want to do something different, I guess. Or maybe it could be she was a warrior and he was the king, and he decided to, and they were going to war, and on one of the battlefields they meet up and he decides to save her life, you know, because he love at first sight stuff, which I don't know, I can agree with and disagree with. I feel like that puts too much on physical attraction rather than, you know, what they actually feel like. I can agree that you can do love at first sight, but, you know, you can't just go off of that. You have to actually meet them, talk to them, which is the thing I don't agree with. Is it's just like, oh yeah, you're really pretty, and they get married and have a happily ever after, when it should be, oh hey, you're really pretty, and then they go out on dates. You know, I never agreed with the love at first sight of, oh yeah, we're destined to be together because of the way we look. No, we're destined to be together because our personalities are compatible. You know, we know how to work together. You don't even have to look the most handsome or beautiful or whatever you choose to for others. You just got to do it based off of how you feel for each other, what makes you guys tick, I guess, and whether y'all are compatible. Because if both of you are control freaks, then it's not going to work out, because he's going to try to control her and she's going to try to control him. But, you know, I mean, I could write something like that based off that, where their personalities are so similar and they'll constantly fight, and then eventually they, you know, figure out how to get around that. They use it to their advantage, I guess, or something like that. I love making stories like that. You know, I don't like the whole, oh, well, automatic, like, most stories are just the personalities are automatically compatible. They don't work to figure things out. They're like, oh, hey, you know, my personality's like this, or my personality's like this, and they get together. I'm not saying that they'd actually do that, but throughout the movie, they show their personalities and they just instantly click. Instead of like, hey, their personalities are like, they repel each other. They're not a great personality match, you know, they constantly bounce off of each other, bicker, but then they learn to, but I'd like to make it where they learn to get around that, you know, which would, for me, seem more like what would happen in real life if two people actually loved each other, you know. I think I'm procrastinating on writing this, to be honest. But my idea of what I want Shadow's mother to be is I played with the idea of maybe making her like I like the idea of the royalty and non-royalty thing, but I just see it too often. So, but what I don't see often is, well, I've seen it maybe once or twice. I can't remember from where, but it's a warrior and another warrior. What is that from? Oh God, I'm gonna sit here and think about who I'm thinking about because it's clear in my mind on who it is, but it's on the tip of my tongue. Uh, who who is it? He's like our two countries were at war together, but I saw her on the battlefield and immediately fell in love with her. I can't remember if it's a book or a movie, but I think it's a movie. I can't remember which one though. Um, God, it hurts my head not to know who it is. Like it's on the tip of my tongue, but I'm giving myself a headache trying to think about this. Um, mm, oh no, it's not that one. I can't remember. It's like a dark night and a light night. And, I can't. Oh, it hurts. Next part, if I can figure it out, I'll explain what thing I'm talking about. But the thing is that I like that because it's like he doesn't see her face. He's just like her form was great, whatever, right? I want to make it to where they have kind of like a mental battle at the same time. They didn't do that in whatever movie, book, or whatever I'm thinking. Is that a TV series? She dies. I know that. Later on, she dies. But, anyways, so the thing I want to do with it is I want to do something like that. Oh, they met on the battlefield, but the changes I want to put in is she's just a normal warrior, like the example been trying to give, and he is the king, but he's at the front lines like a king should be. While the kingdom he's fighting, their king is way in the back, protected by so many guards, which I've always not liked that idea. I've always liked the idea of the king should be up front. I mean, I know if the king dies, then the people's spirit dies, but if he's up there with his men fighting, their spirit is stronger, so you have a better chance of winning. And Jack and his army would win because he can bring dead soldiers back to life. You know. But moving on to the next point is I don't want she had great form or she was really pretty, she stood out from the rest, or I want to make it where they have like a kind of mental battle. It's not just mortals fighting, it's immortals fighting against immortals. Or a mix of immortals and mortals fighting against a mix of immortals and mortals. We're just gonna call it mix and mix. Mixed races fighting against mixed races. She happens to be an immortal as well as he is, but he's kind of like one of the elite immortals that I explained in the last part with the whole backstory of Jack. Because he can't die, but then again he's death, so he's like above the elite immortals. So they wind up getting into a mental battle, a kind of telepathic. I can't remember if it's telepathy. I think it's telepathy. Telepathy is through the mind. Telekinesis is moving objects in the mind. But, they have a telepathic battle in their minds, and he finds out more about her personality. She doesn't want to do this, but she knows it's right. She doesn't think that this battle is right, but she's doing it for her family, thinking that he's come to destroy the land, right? Having false ideas put in her head by her king, when her king would be like, oh yeah, this guy's coming here to destroy you, fight for your freedoms, whatever, right? Lying. Well, all Jack wants to do is, the main thing at this point is Jack just wants to fight, And Jack caused this war so he could, show, at first it was to show people how powerful he was and how dangerous he could be. And now that he's conquered kingdoms, he's realized that some of the kingdoms are corrupt, spending money more on parties and stuff than on the actual people. People are starving. So he's decided to go and conquer the rest of the world so that he can protect people. And so she reads this because he lets her. He could simply just block her out of his mind and just utterly destroy hers and kill her. But he wants to find out more about her because, she stood out from the battlefield from the rest, but not because she had the most glamorous armor or because, you have to plug in my laptop, but not because she has the most glamorous armor, she has the most prettiest face, or the best fighting form, but because she's not fighting for herself, really, not fighting for glory, not fighting for power or anything, and not fighting because her emotions are showing that she wants to fight for her family instead of just her country. Instead of her king, she's fighting for her brothers and sisters and stuff like that. I don't know if I would do brothers and sisters, maybe, but we'll see once I get into this story. But I want to make it to where he sees her and she's like, wow, her personality, her energy is different than the rest of these. They just want gold out of this. They want to get paid. They want to some of them just want to murder people. She wants to kill these people because she wants to protect her family, her friends. And then she sees in his mind that he just wants to help. He's not fighting for their money. He's not fighting to destroy. He's fighting to help, to bring them up, help them rise instead of just tearing them down. Hey, I'm the ruler of everyone. This kind of like what an evil warlord would do, would say, I'm here to help you people, but he actually wants to do it. He's like, hey, I'm here to help. He lets her into his mind so she can see what he's done. And normally he wouldn't do this, but he knows that she's different, so he allows her. I might tie in that someone else tries to do this and he's standing next to her. Right? The other person's standing next to her, trying to get into his mind as well, but he just collapses with his mind broken as he tried to get into Jack's mind, which then ultimately shuts Jack's mind not down, but blocks her out. And then they go into a fight, but then one of his soldiers, one of his, maybe I'll put it as one of his soldiers goes up to kill her, and he walks up, kills his own soldier, because and I'll make it where it's a soldier that he brought back to the dead, but he kills that soldier back, and he re-kills that soldier. So the soldier's like a zombie. He re-kills the soldier, and then I guess maybe he knocks her out. I don't know. I don't think I'll do the whole punch knockout or anything like that. No, just gets into her mind and makes her sleep, and maybe has some of his soldiers carry her off so he can finish the battle, or maybe he carries her off himself. Or maybe I will make it where they stop. Or maybe I'll make it to where she's a princess, and she wasn't meant to be out there. Kind of like in that Lord of the Rings scene where she pretended that I can't remember her name. It's in the third one, Return of the King. It's in front of not Gondor. Gondor? No, it's Gondor. I think it's Gondor. That big mountain one. Mrs. Tirith. I think it's it. Mrs. Tirith. Mrs. Tirith, or whatever the heck that name is for that. But and she faces off against Witch King. She's like, I am no man, and kills him. Something like that, where she wasn't supposed to be there, but she's fighting for her people, protecting her people instead of just her family and friends. She's fighting for her people because she's heard from her father and the king that Jack is terrible, all this other stuff, that he just wants to keep hold of his own kingdom and keep terrorizing it, I guess. Which she doesn't know. She's lived in her palace, but she's been training in secret. Make it to where she's been training in secret, and I think I'd do that. Maybe he takes off her helmet and realizes who it is, calls a pot, and maybe the king calls a. Maybe she almost gets shot by an arrow from their team, not their team, but his kingdom, not Jack's kingdom, the other king, her kingdom, because they're trying to aim at get Jack, but Jack stops it, and the king realizes who that soldier just shot at, and goes up to fight Jack himself. Maybe have a pause, break, I guess, for the battle, and be like, hey, one night to rest, gather your dead, sort of thing. Or maybe Jack calls it. He's like, okay, everyone you have one night to gather your dead and heal your wounded. And he starts to take her off, and the king goes up to him and like, what are you going to do with her, I guess, or whatever. And Jack's like, it's none of your concern. You are a tyrant king, and I'm taking one of your most prized possession, because you've been taking the most prized possession of your subjects, which is their food, and maybe and stuff like that, maybe I'll make it where they have an exchange, and Jack says that he wants to make sure that none of their kingdom assassinates him while or attacks his camp, and he gives them one of his soldiers, and if his soldier's dead in the morning, and then they trade back, right? Maybe if his soldier is dead that he sends with them is dead, he'll kill her, and if they attack his camp at night, then they'll kill her as well. And I'll make it important, like maybe the general or whatever. And if they attack, then they can kill the general, which would I'll make it where they put it off east. Maybe I'll make it one of his best friends, which I've been trying to incorporate into a story for the longest time. His name would be Benjamin. So his best friend goes and if they kill Benjamin, he kills Princess, which he wouldn't do. He's trying to bluff his way through this. And if they attack, then they can kill Ben. If Jack's army attacks, they can kill Benjamin. That her kingdom can kill Benjamin. Just make it to where that they make sure that the battle doesn't continue overnight. Actually, I think I'm going to leave it right here because we are in 25 minutes. And no, I've been trying to write this chapter for like the longest time throughout these parts. This is the third part. I tried writing this one chapter. All right, and I haven't been able to do it just because I can't figure out how to do it. But this part, yeah, this episode is definitely figuring out how to write it. So next part, the next two parts should be me writing this chapter, and I think I'm going to go along with this idea of the battle because I've always liked making battles. My favorite things are the fight scenes in movies and books, and my favorite thing to do is show off my character's power, whether they win or lose. Just to show, hey, I'm this powerful. And I've been thinking about fan fiction for Jack. I'm just gonna put a few words here so I can. Okay, and we go back. Fan fiction for across the multiverse. I've been thinking of fan fiction for different series and for different things, right? Let's see, story details. So this is the description for what I want to do. And I love fan fiction. I've always wanted to do fan fiction of incorporating my characters into other people's stories. Majorly The Hunger Games, The Purge, and Seven Deadly Sins. But the hardest thing for me is I'm not going to interrupt someone else's story. I'm not going to go into the 74th Hunger Games, which is Katniss's first Hunger Games. I'm not going to be like that. I'm going to take the idea of Hunger Games, not basically like taking their idea. I'm just going to change it up a little bit. Maybe make it to where, hey, this is a world like the Hunger Games. They have the same ideas, but it's mortals and immortals, right? And Jack and Shadow are selected, and they go in, they fight, or maybe they make it towards the same universe, just maybe an earlier version, but they kept it under lock and key, and so that's why it's never mentioned in Hunger Games movies or books. I don't like interrupting stories already told. I don't like I've seen fan fiction where it's like, oh, they have their character helped the main characters of the story along with their mission or whatever, right? Like, let's say Seven Deadly Sins. I did Seven Deadly Sins. Most fan fictions would be that they join Seven Deadly Sins in their adventure, and it would be basically like the 8 Deadly Sins or whatever, right? And they help them along through it, right? Instead, I want to make it to where it's like a side thing, something that's never mentioned, something that doesn't interrupt the main story. Like, instead of helping defeat Dreyfus and what's his other name? Hendrickson. Instead of helping them defeat Hendrickson and Dreyfus, just make it like they encounter Jack and Shadow at one point. Jack shows off his powers, beats all the 7 Deadly Sins, and they never mention it because that's the first time Meliodas loses a fight with all that power, right? And the same thing with Escanor, fighting Escanor, brute strength beats Escanor, which most would say that's broken. No one's more physically powerful than Escanor. It's my fan fiction. 2, I'm not interrupting any of their story. I'm not like, oh, I'm going to join them on the their first quest to defeat Hendrickson and stop him from turning people into demons and bringing the demon race back. And it's not going to interrupt the second mission where they go to stop the Ten Commandments. Oh, I should have done spoiler warnings. Sorry. Yeah, those are spoilers. At least, but I don't like interrupting. And I've seen a lot of fan fiction where it does interrupt that story. Or not those specific stories. I haven't seen fan fiction for those. But I'm pretty sure that a lot of fan fiction for Seven Deadly Sins would interrupt the story that they go along with and be like, and they help them throughout, help the Seven Deadly Sins throughout. And I've thought about doing that a long time ago, just be like, hey, things are obvious, why not send my character in just to point out the obvious stuff, you know? And you're like, no, that's interrupting the story, that's just going to break their story, and I don't want to do that. If I make it to where it's a side mission kind of thing, they just meet up somewhere or whatever, or they encounter Jack or whatever along the way, or Jack encounters him, something like that, you know? And I make it like in between the story, right? At a point where like maybe they're in one town in one episode and they're another town in another episode, you know, and make it put and insert my fanfic in between that, you know, make it like a side thing, you know, something that's never mentioned in the episodes, because fanfiction should not be inserted into the stories like that. You should not force your fanfiction into the story. It should be a kind of side thing. Maybe make an adventure, you know, without the adventures already told, because you're just retelling a story with your own character and you're making their story yours. No, just make your own story, but contribute it to what they did. You know, I like the Meliodas character. He's really powerful. You know, he's captain of the Seven Deadly Sins. He was the leader of the Ten Commandments at one point. Another spoiler warning, I should have done that. I am not good at YouTube and stuff. Anyways, but it shouldn't and I keep repeating myself, but that's because this is a big issue that I've seen. You should not interrupt someone else's stories. For example, if I do The Purge, I can't take the first Purge movie and enter myself into it. I could do an earlier Purge, or I can do a later Purge, you know, and do something that's not already told, you know, or Star Wars, I can't put my character into, like, A New Hope, and I go to find Luke instead of Obi-Wan, and I take him to Luke. No, that's breaking the Star Wars story. A lot of people would be mad. Instead, I could be like, oh, this is a fanfic of an expanded universe, you know, or maybe I can make it to where he goes to meet Darth Vader and Palpatine, kind of like Luke did, right? But before Luke met them, because when Luke meets them both at the same time, it's in Empire Strikes Back. Not Empire Strikes Back, The Return of the Jedi, and he defeats Darth Vader, who then kills Emperor Palpatine. And I would do a spoiler warning, but if you haven't seen that movie already, you either don't want to, or you've been living under a rock, or you just hate Star Wars, which falls under the category of you just don't want to watch it. Because that movie's been out longer than I've been alive. But, you know, I don't want to interrupt stories, and no one with a fanfic should interrupt stories, because then that's just lazy writing. You're already retelling the story, but you're adding your character in. You know, it's like, it's just stupid. You shouldn't be doing that. It's taking someone else's work. Even if you paraphrase it, you're taking someone else's idea and you're making it your own. When in contrast, you could make your own story, but base it off of, like, I could make a Hunger Games story, but base it off Hunger Games. Give all the credit to Sarah Collins, I think it's Sarah Collins, something like that. So the writer who made Hunger Games, again, contributed to that. Say, hey, I got the idea from here, but you know, it's a fanfic because you know, it's about something else, it's my character's into another story, but I'm not retelling it, I'm not breaking the story. So that's all I got to leave you guys with today. And I'll see you again another time. Probably in the next part, which I'm probably doing tomorrow and also uploading it tomorrow. So, Ryder out.